Welcome. We're back with another exciting episode on the weekly sports roundup with me, your host Felix Munyik, and it's week 8 of the best show that the country has to offer when it comes to Zambia's sports landscape. And going to straight into business. On today's episode, I'll be looking at 4 items that have been prepared, and it will be quite interesting because yes, we talk about sport and Zambian sport, African sport, and we're going worldwide. But the exciting part of today's episode is that I'll speak more on the Zambian side of things, of course. But let me start this show with congratulating, first of all, the Atlas Lions of Morocco in the 2025 CHAN Championship in Kenya after he had fought win against Madagascar. Madagascar were one of the surprise packages at the CHAN tournament this year, but Morocco were just the dominant force. But they had fought win 3-2, and they deserved it, and they deserve all the credit. So congrats to Morocco, and wishing you all the best in the upcoming competitions. And of course, they have a game against Zambia, but you know how things go. People are not rating us as Zambia in that game, but I think we need to give the Chipolopolo boys some benefit of the doubt, because I mean, it's football. Surprises come up, and things change. So looking forward to that. So after Morocco's campaign at the CHAN, it was quite interesting to see for me how the 3 countries, the Pamoja hosting of the CHAN in Tanzania, Kenya, and of course Uganda would go. And I think it went well, with some of the record numbers of crowds pulling up in Kenya, most especially because I think people were excited about the competition in Kenya compared to these other countries, and the numbers were really interesting in Kenya. I think the organizers are proud, and as a country, as a nation, the Kenyans need to be proud of the support they gave to African football. We draw some learning aspects from that, and if countries like Zambia bid for hosting such competitions, I think it will be interesting to sell the competitions to the fans, so that whenever there's a game, not just when the national team is playing, but even the other countries when they are playing, people will pull up and they'll show up and show support. So now, coming on the big news for Zambian football. I know people were waiting for this, and the biggest news on episode 8 of the weekly sports roundup is that Fashion Sakala is back. Yes, Fashion Sakala is back in the Chipolopolo setup after missing for almost a year. The last time he played for the national team was at the AFCON in January 2024. That's a long time. But he's now back with the Chipolopolo boys, and he was called up as one of the 31 members that were called up by Coach Avram Grant for the provisional squad for the upcoming World Cup qualifiers. And of course, they'll be playing against the Atlas Lions of Morocco on the 8th of September. It should be a Monday, a couple of weeks' time. So this is a provisional squad of 21 players, and it will be trimmed 24 players after some physical tests by the Chipolopolo technical bench. And those 24 players are the ones that will be in the team now that will face Morocco and the upcoming competitions as planned. So I think we can just run through some of the players that have been called, and a host of familiar names, and the usual suspects. I'm glad that Person Daka, Lamek Banda, Fashion Sakala, and the others that have been called, because if you remember, the last time we were supposed to be watching the Chipolopolo boys, there was a boycott from these guys. Rumor has it was something to do with allowances and paid dues and whatnot. So they didn't play. They issued a statement, like the national senior team players issued a statement and whatnot. But I'm glad that we are over that now, and that's why dialogue is very important, because we need to make the athletes feel comfortable. We need to make the footballers feel comfortable, whether it's the men's, the women's team. We don't have to reach points where athletes or footballers need to boycott for you to get the message. So it was quite disappointing, especially with the fact that we just had the new fans come in, the new office bearers in fans, and then the next thing, these guys are boycotting. You see? So for me, it was a non-starter into the new phases campaign. But I mean, things have been dealt with. Glad to see the boys back, and I'm excited for the game because it has been long since we saw the Chipolopolo boys play. Yeah, so the players that have been called for the 31 member squad, because it's a provisional squad, so we have about 4 goalkeepers, starting with so the former Zesco United and Zranko goalkeeper Tostan Sabato now playing his trade in South Africa, has been called up. Then we have Lorenzo Mlenga, obviously with Bad Dynamos, Charles Kalumba with Red Arrows, and Mwenya Chiwe with Zesco United. I think Mwenya Chiwe, if you remember Mwenya Chiwe, played in South Africa for some time, played for the national team, then now is back with the national team set up after being called, after being called up after being brought back by Zesco United, because they just recently joined Zesco United, and for the second stint. Yeah, since 2022 we played for Zesco United and then went back to SA, but now he's back to Zesco United and has been called up for the squad. Right now, I think before this call up, he has about 19 caps with the men's senior team, the Chipolopolo boys, and we'll love to see if he'll make the cut for the final 20-man squad. Moving on, Frankie Musonda, who's I think right now is clubless, but there's some rumors or indications that he might be heading to the Midwest with one of the clubs in the Midwest. But he's a very good defender. Was playing in trade in Scotland before his contract came to an end in Scotland. Then we have Kabasa Chongo, Benedict Chepeshi, Gifting Pande, Zesco United, Dominic Chanda, Power Dynamos, Obino Chisala, who's now with El Merreikh Sudan. He played, I think, some time in Mozambique before moving up north, northeast. Then we have also David Amansenya, who's now playing in Spain for Leganes. Then Matthews Banda Nkana. So these are the defenders. Then midfielders we have Luambo Msonda, who's now playing in Germany, Benson Sakala, Czech Republic, Miguel Chaiwa, Hibernian in Scotland, and they scored a very good goal. I think a few days ago in their Europa Conference League qualifiers, and the next game he started the game in the league. So it's quite interesting and exciting to watch. The Chipolopolo boys perform as well when it comes to club football, like we expect them to perform when it comes to national football. Then we have Gode Mafuenta, who's in the Czech Republic also, Kelvin Kampamba, Abraham Siankombo, Zesco United, Emmanuel Banda, obviously. Emmanuel Banda is back in Israel with Maccabi Binei, Gift, Siame, Sidil against Spain, Saddam Piri is with Red Arrows, Lamek Band, obviously with Liz, Italy. Then we have Shonga Chipioka, who's also in Israel with Opeo Peter Tivka. Then the forwards, we have the usual suspects. We have Kingston Tandwa, who's now in Austria with SV Red. Then we have Edward Chilufya, who's with Midland in Denmark, Person Dhaka, Leicester City. Kennedy Msonda, who's now moved to Israel after his journey in Tanzania with Hopeo Ramad Tigan. Then the big one, Fashion Sakala, who plays for Al Fire in Saudi Arabia. So this is like one of the best squads that has ever been assembled by the national football team, set up on technical benches, and this squad has a lot of potential. So it will be interesting to see what these guys can do playing for the national team and whatnot. So I wish them all the best, and it will be. I can't wait. I'm excited to watch the Chipolopolo boys play because it has been long, I can't wait, especially for Fashion Sakala, because one thing I know for sure is that he needs to prove that the national team needs him. You see, if we play a year without him and nothing changes, then what's the difference of having him in the squad and not having him? So I think he needs to prove that, of course, guys, you can count on me, and I'm your guy. I'm your guy, you can count on me. I love what I do, and I'll be able to support you whenever I'm required to. So that's something that we're looking forward to. Moving on to the next element on today's episode, I'm talking about athletics and the World Athletics Championships that are coming up. So Zambia Athletics confirmed that the 4x400 team, relay team, will be competing in Japan for the 2025 World Athletics Championships. And how they found their way in Japan is because of the time they did during the period between 2024 and 2025. So now, when you look at the time the guys did, the men's team, when they were competing in Ghana for the African Games. So for 4x400 relay, 16 teams across the globe have been are competing in Japan in that. So Zambia will be amongst the 16 teams that will be competing the 4x400 meters men's relay at the Tokyo 2025 World Athletics Championships. And just to put some meat to the news that was been circulating is that Zambia, as they are part of the 16 teams that qualified. So with a time of 2 minutes 59 seconds, 2 minutes 59.12 seconds, which was the best qualifying time. And they did this time in Ghana last year during the qualification period. So what's interesting is that this time was so good such that it qualified them to 3 competitions now. The Paris Olympic Games, the World Relays in Jamaica last year, and of course the upcoming World Championships in Japan. And we'll see how the team will be, because we know the usual suspects. We have Muzara Samkonga, we have Kennedy Luchembe, David Mulenga, and also we have the likes of Patrick Nyambe, Thompson Mbewe, and Stadi, who is like a substitute. And so this team has been the team that has been qualifying these guys to and competing in the previous competitions. But now, since this was expected, like I mentioned in my reaction post to this news, this was expected. And I hope the team has been training adequately to prepare for this, because this is not news. And we have about a couple of weeks before these guys qualify, go to the competition. So we'll see how things go, because the teams they'll be competing against, we have South Africa, France, Kenya, Botswana, Belgium, Great Britain, Portugal, China, the US, Australia, Qatar, Brazil, Netherlands, Jamaica, Japan, and Zambia. So these are top teams. They will be prepared for the World Championships, and Zambia needs to be at the same wavelength with them. One thing that we've been tired of is not preparing adequately. Not preparing is preparing to fail. I think there's a saying that says that. So if these guys go to competition and we tell from their performance that these guys didn't have inadequate preparation, then there's something wrong and something needs to be done, because that won't be entertained. These guys, we want, when these guys go for competition, they need to perform as expected. They need to compete at that level. You see, we can't always be going because we are last minute preparations. People just go there, make an appearance and come back. I don't think we need to do more for the athletes. The athletes give in their best, and most of the time they want to show us that they can do it, which means the systems around them need to be supportive of that. This qualification, like I mentioned again, was expected. If you've been following sport for the past 2 years, you know that this time that the guys did in Ghana is one of the best times in the world. There were attempts to beat this time, but no one came close. For 2 years, this time has managed to qualify. First of all, get the guys a gold medal in Ghana, qualify them for the World Relays, and also qualify them to the Olympic Games. You see? And now they're going to the World Championship with this time, which is one of the best. And the best they can do is they have to beat this time, because this was let me just check. Yeah, it should have been a national record of some sort. Yeah. So it's not news. Quite alright, yes, they've qualified, we've received confirmation, but I hope the team was preparing because the team was in Jamaica. They trained in Jamaica for maybe a couple or 3 months. Then after the world relays, were those the world relays? Yes, the world relays. The world relays were in China, not Jamaica. I think so. Yeah. I think the world relays were in China. So okay. I just had it mixed up. So we had Bahamas and we had the world relays in China. Yes. So these guys have managed to compete at all the competitions. But one thing I also want to talk about is we have about 6 runners that have been competing, and they've 7, including Muzala. It has been a team from Birmingham, Paris, Guangzhou, Bahamas, now Tokyo. But are we going to have the same team, or we'll have another team that will be made up? Because again, Muzala is the only athlete who will be competing in individual races, the 400 meters, and obviously he'll be part of the relay team. So we need to prepare adequately, and I trust the national team setup when it comes to athletics to do their job. So right now we just extend our best wishes to the team and hope that they perform to their level best. I know they'll die a little for Mother Zambia. I just hope everything will be like traveling on time, preparation, acclimatization, because this is a very big competition and the athletes need to be given that support. They need to be given a platform. If we prepare them adequately, they won't have any reason or an excuse not to perform well, because I know for sure those guys are willing to do whatever it takes to make Mother Zambia proud. So let's support them and leave the ball in their court for them to do what they're supposed to do best. That's win, compete, enjoy themselves at the highest level of sport. We have a calendar of activities. We know how this year will be, what will be happening this year and whatnot. One of the big competitions for me and for many others is the upcoming African Youth Games in Angola 2025, which will also act as qualifiers for the Youth Olympic Games to Dakar 2026. Equally important competition. For the first time, Africa is hosting an Olympic competition in the continent. So which means everyone should be excited about going to this country and compete for their country, because it can also act as a springboard to LA 2028. The teams that we expect to be in Angola, only one team, that's judo, one sport I've seen prepare. They've been preparing ever since. They want to compete at the competition. They are going ready. I don't know about the other sports. And when such things happen, they bring a lot of doubts and they bring a lot of questions, because okay, I've been seeing judo, they have a training program, everything is there. They're trying to prepare for the upcoming African Youth Games. Are they the only sport that will be competing in Angola? What are the other sports doing? So I'm not privy to that information now because of my current status and whatnot. But if I had the information, I would follow up with these guys to check what's happening. Because the only thing we're seeing with judo is the only thing we're seeing is judo preparing for the African Youth Games. What about the other sports? How many sports are competing? Why is judo the only one that seem to be preparing? Yes. Others will say maybe the competitions that they are using will act as qualifiers or preparations. For example, for swimming, they have the African Aquatics Zone 4 competition in Eswatini. Yeah, so it can also act as a good platform for preparation and preparing the team for the upcoming African Youth Games. But as it stands now, I'm not privy to the information on how Team Zambia will be set up and what sports it will be involved. So I'll try to follow that up, and maybe we can have something to do in the upcoming episodes. We can talk about that. Yeah. So I didn't want to keep this long. This was just a quick update and to keep our tradition going on the weekly sports roundup. With that being said, we come to the close of episode 8 of the weekly sports roundup, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for the support that I'm receiving, and yeah.